Hello and welcome to Casting Nets. I am one of your pastors here, Pastor Dave Rudott from Emmanuel Lutheran in Shirley. I am joined with Pastor Will Harley from St. John and Maribel. How are you doing, Will?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be on the show. This is a good time. We're in the middle of December. We had a lot of snow yesterday, and so it's good to be inside, good to be warm. You are by far warmer than I am. I'm sitting next to your fireplace, surrounded by the glorious books that you have there behind you. My bookshelf is meager comparatively to yours. And I do not have such wonderful heat burning in my room. So, no.
You have the lack of hot air, so you have that going for you, which is nice.
There you go.
I have the hot air.
Well, I was told in my council meeting this last time that if we wanted to reduce the heating bill, that they should allow Pastor to talk more. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
I thought that was good.
Yeah, I figured since it's like how society wants to rush to Christmas when we're sitting here enjoying Advent, let's just rush to the end of the year and do our end of the year show and just say we too can play this game.
Yeah. Let's just bypass Christmas altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not?
We like Christmas. We're going to get there, but we're just going to, for the sake of all of those who want to rush into things, we'll rush even further. See how you like them apples. Speaking of apples, my grandfather poured his blood, sweat, and tears into his career. Amazing man, awful chef. Yeah, I had some jokes about the wind, and unfortunately, they're just drafts.
I know you had a couple of people who said that they tune in for the dad jokes, but I think that's kind of excessive. I think sometimes you're grasping at straws, and that's right.
That's okay. I mean, that you don't have to appreciate them. That's not a condition for me doing these jokes. Nobody has to actually laugh at them. If one person laughs, then they're great, and if that one person is me, even better. So
there you go.
That's just kind of how I roll on the dad jokes.
Well, it was kind of the way that the conversation went right before the show. We were going back trying to like put together some of the previous, because we're well into the 300s here for shows that we've been putting out, and Pastor Rudott wanted to try to find show 89 back in the old MP3 days where we didn't do all the fancy buttons and we didn't do it. We just recorded something and it was good and it was easy. And he's like, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I have it. So I have 88 and I have 87 and I have 90. And he goes, no, I need 89. And I said, why do you need 89? He says, because that was the first show that he was on and he wanted to hear his own voice and preserve that. So
I did. So it was
and that's the only one that I got rid of.
Yeah, yeah, understandably so. So yeah, I shared it to all the groups. So if you are on a group, if you are watching on Facebook and you find a group that hasn't been shared to, or you know a group, please share it with them. You don't need to do it for our validation, because we are standing validated in Christ. But if you want this to be shared with others, if you want to join in the conversation, your takeaways from 2025, how you failed or prevailed, how you fared over the years. We're talking about ourselves. We're talking about our ministries. We're also talking about our societies as we perceive them. We did a thing that we used to do way back when, was actually share with each other what we're going to talk about before we actually talk about them. And so I have seen his list, he has seen mine, and so I'm looking forward to going through that list with you. But before we do so, I wanted to do a disclaimer. We disclaim everything that needs to be disclaimed in this podcast in a blanket fashion. So if there's something that needs to be disclaimed today, we are disclaiming it. If there's some way that you are triggered, we don't intend for that. This is a conversation after all. And so sometimes in conversations, things are said while we're not thinking. And so we would like some clarification if somehow we said something.
Right? Most conversations go and progress without thinking.
Yeah, yes, for some of us. And so anyway, yeah, we need to have that disclaimer. We don't speak for our churches or even ourselves if we're just having a conversation. We're just chatting about the end of the year and our takeaways on that. If you like what we have to say, that's great. And if you want to share with what we have, that would be great too. You can like. I think I was checking on the Apple podcast. We have 12 people have given us our rating right now is 4.5. So that's a good place to be. We don't want to be 5 because then people think that's all AI generated. All the bots have sent that. We need it 4.5 for all the algorithms. So if you are listening on Apple, give us the 4-star. I don't know what the other audio platforms are. If you're on YouTube, you can give us a like, and then you can sign up if you'd like you can subscribe so that whenever time we come on live, you'll see it in your notifications. So that's just for you. That's not really for us. But anyway, that's YouTube. And on Rumble, same thing. Wanted to thank all those who have been listening to us over the year. You want to do that at the end, or should we do it now?
We can, I guess it all depends on when we want to hit the statistics, but I would say that
I have an old man with a white beard, correct?
I'm getting close.
What?
I'm getting close to the white beard.
Yeah, right. And for the for the Christmas movies, watching with your kids,
sure.
You got to have the white beard. You have to have elves bringing presents. Do you not? There has to be some sort of singing involved, right?
There is.
And top it all off, you need a ring, like a gold ring. So therefore, Lord of the Rings, Christmas movie.
Lord of the Rings is a Christmas movie. Not on the same par as Die Hard is for a Christmas movie, but actually Die Hard significantly doesn't have any of those things, and yet it still ranks as one of the best Christmas movies. I mean, you could even ring probably Harry Potter into Christmas movies because it has a guy with a white beard. It has elves bringing gifts. It has definitely a ring near the end, an evil ring that needs to be destroyed. But so does Lord of the Rings. It has an evil ring that needs to be destroyed. So, yeah, I mean, I think we could make this work. I really
How's that for going off the rails? I can do that too. I mean, yeah. I don't.
I didn't know where you were going with this at first, but as soon as you said Lord of the Rings, I was right there with you and behind you all the way, 100%. 100%.
So let's get on with the show. So Annette Adrian asks, I haven't heard of a gold ring being associated with Christmas. And to that, I would say, have you heard of the song 12 Days of Christmas? 5 golden rings. There it is.
Yeah, but that's not 1. That's 5.
But, work with me. Anyhow, that's fun. So the year, looking at the year in review, 2025. If you have your insights for yourself, how you grew, failed, and prevailed in 2025, we'll take them as we're listening to the podcast. But we have a countdown. We go back and forth. So number 5. Will, do you want to go first?
You know what? I certainly can, not because I think that I'm better than you, but because I think your points are better than mine. So, my number five, I just threw out there, and this is probably to start a conversation going, but my number 5 was churching should be hard. That was my number 5. Kind of it kind of fits into my struggle throughout the entirety of the year, which was my frustration with things I've been hearing and people I've been interacting with who are like, oh, being a Christian is easy. I can believe, and but they're never in church. And it's just, then the struggle behind it in the pastoral ministry is I'm a one-man show. You're a one-man show. You kind of understand how that works. We're preaching all the time, like every week we're preaching. And so you're struggling to try to bring, not in something new to God's grace, but try to present it in a way that people are they're like, I didn't hear that last week, or I heard it the same thing last week. And so you try to make it a little bit nuanced and different, and just the struggle that comes with this idea of the body of Christ, right? This body of gathered believers that we call the church, and it's difficult, and I think it should be hard. And I think I really do. I think that in the scriptures, God calls us into the church. And as we've been going through the book of Concord, we see that even Luther, Melanchthon said, yeah, the church is vitally important, and the church is it's hard to do the church thing. It's hard to do the church thing, and I think that's where I was going.
Yeah, and just to clarify, not that salvation is hard work, because that's all
No.
done in Christ.
Yes.
It's just we are following after him, and Jesus himself said, if anyone wants to follow after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, follow me. And so denying them ourselves, that's a hard part of loving each other, isn't it? Is to say no to myself and yes to somebody else, or no to what I want and yes to what is better for the group, for the church, when you're in this group of believers. And so that's hard. And taking up your cross is also hard. These are not things that get us our salvation, because our salvation is already secure in Christ. But we're called into something. We're called into Christ. We're partnered with him, and those things we're following after him, just as just as the believers have been throughout time. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
I like it though.
Well, it always comes down to, I think we've had these conversations before, that the church doesn't really seem persecuted so much in the United States. And so I think the hardest thing that the church has to contend with, because we aren't necessarily persecuted, and that there's up for contention on that, I know. But the hardest thing that I think we have to deal with is the fact that I can't have everything the way I want it when I want it. And the church is not a buffet line. I can pick it up and take it, and pick it up and leave it, or I can add a portion of it this way and a portion of it that way. The church is a catered meal, and which means that you show up on time, you show up when it's served, you receive what they've put together, and then you come back when you're hungry. And I think sometimes we forget to do that, and that we try to make it so easy that you don't feel that strain anymore, because I don't have to do the church thing. And that means I don't have to give, I don't have to support, I don't have to be a part of the body of believers. I don't have to take up the emotional strain of the other people who are suffering. I can just tune in, and I can cut all that out, because I don't see the packed pews, or I only see the first two pews, and everyone else in there I don't have to contend with. And then I can still do my thing. I can have my coffee. I don't have to get dressed. I can still be in my PJs. I could go to my kid's sporting event on a Sunday, because the public schools or whoever league that you're a part of doesn't want to play nice with church times. The whole thing can go on, and I can have everything I need. And so yes, churching is hard. I think churching is hard.
All right, my number 5 is more personal, and my number 5 is man is made for challenge, but not every challenge is made for challenges, but not every challenge. So the reason why I said that, I was thinking back of the year, this time in January, February, I was helping serve out, and at the same time I was trying to work with my current congregations, and so at those times I just felt like I need some relief. I need to get off of this, and then there was some relief, but then there's been more challenges throughout the year. I've had challenges in ministry, challenges in my own marriage, challenges with my cars falling apart, my kids in college, and things, and personal challenges with my own personal health. Like, things went well, and then things didn't go well, and then got my doctor's visit at the end of in November, and he's like, your blood pressure needs to get under control. And I'm like, I just started drinking. I'm finding my perfect drink, and you're asking me to give that up. Yeah, I got to give that up. My perfect drink was a Red Bull. It was the sugar-free amber. It was like this. It was just awesome. And I only had it like one every other day, but then I was like, nope, I got to give that up because these things, the stimulants, are not good for blood pressure. So, yeah, lots of challenges throughout the year, but I feel like this is what it means to exist. What kind of existence do you have if you're not challenged? How do you grow? Do you just sit there? Because I've known there have been times when I've just sat there, and months go by, and you go, "What did I accomplish?" Or how did I grow as an individual? And so we're made for challenges. And so if your life, just for myself, that's my insight. Like this, I was better when I was challenged than when I wasn't challenged. But then on the flip side of that is you're made for challenges, but not every challenge. So the idea of you have a vocation, like you're not tasked with saving the world. You're tasked with the things that God has put right in front of you. And that also means that if you don't have the same challenge as your brother in the ministry or another person in life, and you go, well, I'm not like them, or how come my life isn't like their life, that the route of envy and jealousy, you go, that's not your challenge. God has put your challenge in front of you. And how oftentimes we would want to, I'd rather have somebody else's challenge than what's put in front of me. I'd rather not face whatever it is that God has put in front of me. And so that was my insight. Mankind is made for challenges, but not every challenge.
Yeah, it's almost to the effect, and I like where you're going with that, because I think sometimes we think that we're all running the same race, and I don't think we are. We're all running. I mean, we're all running a race, but it's not the same race. Yours might have a bunch of hurdles, mine might have a bunch of mud pies or whatever else that are in the way. And I think challenges are what really form us, and how we make our way through those challenges, and especially how through those challenges we find support, not only in the people God provides in our life, but also from the Savior who never leaves us or forsakes us. And I think I was here for some of your challenges this year, and I got to help when you asked or allowed me to be a support for you. And I think you have managed those challenges very well, by the grace of God. So, yeah, I think you're right, 100%.
All right, you're number 4.
My number 4. So yeah, this one's going to be interesting for listeners, and that is patience is easy when you have too much on your plate. So
I like it's cryptic.
It is cryptic.
It catches your attention. Yes. Let's
So
go.
everyone says patience is a virtue, and usually my response to them is that is one virtue I never obtained. But I have found out that the Lord has taught me so much on my plate that I forget about all the rest of the stuff I'm impatient about, because I've got something else that's always there to take its place, and so I don't have time to worry about it. And so I've been learning patience this year, by being overwhelmed, and I don't have the luxury to be impatient. So if I'm in the middle of something and you get to that point where you're like, I really want to finish this, but you're like, I can't finish this, but there's something else I have to do. So I'm okay with that, because I can move to that other thing, and then the other things usually finish themselves as you go through. So it's I know it seems like a very cryptic statement, and I'm not trying to be profound or anything else, but I find out that, and maybe it's irritated you can be with impatience, because it's like I'm too busy to be impatient. I have other things on the plate, and so I'll just do those things, and then I'll come back, and that's
I have
fine.
a question for you.
Sure.
If at some point in the past, have you prayed for patience?
Yes, and this is where this is the side effect of prayer, because we always say, the Lord answers prayer, and then everyone says, well, how does he answer prayer? Well, you pray for patience. He puts you in places where you have to practice it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
pray for wisdom, and he puts you in situations where you have to be wise.
Yeah.
You pray for strength, and he puts you in situations where you have to be strong. And so I think this is our, as you enter into the new year in the next couple of weeks, this is our caution to you: be careful what you pray for, because you'll get it. And sometimes and I'm not saying, okay, pray for to win the lottery. I'm saying, when you're praying for patience, and you're praying for strength, you're praying for wisdom, the Lord will put you in positions where you're going to have to practice those things, and then He's going to say, "See, I provided." Um, what a wonderful thing for you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good one. My number 4 is decide first, feel later. And so many decisions we make in life are tied to our feelings. What should I eat today? Well, what am I feeling like? So I'm talking about my own personal struggles with weight. You go, what do I feel like having right now? I'm stressed, so I want to eat my feelings. And you go, wait a minute. What decision have you made here, Dave? And the decision was to take care of your health, and then you'll let your feelings take care of itself later. And I think this is for me, it's such a pithy statement, especially in dealing with marriage as well, where uh, your spouse can say so many things that trigger you, and you're like, well, am I going to react to that, or am I going to decide I'm going to love this person, or I'm going to take her words and actions in the kindest possible way, or I'm going to, in this moment, not let my feelings escalate this situation. So decide first, feel later. I think that's one of my key takeaways from this year for myself, and I hope that's for you as well.
Well, I would have to say that I didn't have to contend with kind of this particular thing, and mostly that's because I have no feelings. So, not having feelings really just makes it all about deciding. So, and I say that in jest. That's a running joke my wife always has for me. Because she'll many times say, "Well, that made me feel bad," or "Don't you feel bad about this?" And then she'll say, "Oh, I remember. You have no feelings." Um, so it's no, it is true. We do live in a society so driven by how do I feel, and I think it is important for us to recognize that most of life is a decision. Faith is not a decision. Faith is something given to us, but many things in life the Lord presents to us and says, "Okay, I'm gonna let you decide to engage," and it's hard. It's
The
hard.
Lord wants you to succeed because that's a
Yeah.
test. It's not just saying, "Hey, you're." Yeah, I'm gonna throw this at you, and secretly hoping that we'd fail.
Yeah.
But He wants us to succeed.
We have and not to go forward to come back, but I don't know if you've been tracking some of the comments on Facebook, which we greatly appreciate. I think they're wonderful. But one of the things that was when we were talking about patience, we had a comment on patient endurance, and then just an understanding of what patient endurance is, and maybe expounding on what a patient endurance is. Did you want to tackle that one, or did you want me to tackle that one?
Um, I think it's in line with what Paul says, right? Patience, endurance. How's it go? Suffering produces patience, patience, endurance. How's that go?
It's
Uh,
yeah, so
there's an app for that.
there's an app for that. Not that we're making the church irrelevant by using an app, but no, you can. But it is dealing with the idea that that as God is throwing challenges your way, um, He's doing this because he's actually exercising a muscle, and patience is a muscle, and the muscle that it continues to work is an endurance, which is what patience is. It's enduring the thing until it has its result. And so I think there's a beauty in that comment, in the exercise of things you have to wait for and exercise. You have the verse. So
Yeah, Romans 5:4. We also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope, and hope does not put us to shame.
yeah, that perseverance is that patience, right? Um, knowing that it's not going to happen immediately, but it will happen. So hopefully, yeah. Um,
And it's also in Revelation 14. Um, I just had it and then it's gone. Anyway, Revelation 14, verse 2.
you're looking for it right now.
Yeah.
Those apps
14,
work.
verse 12. Sorry. 14,
Okay.
verse 12. This calls for patience, endurance on the part of the people of God who keep His commands and remain faithful to Jesus. Where he's talking about the three angels, which we did a podcast on Revelation,
We
the book
did.
of Revelation, chapter 14, and the wrath of bulls. The wrath of bulls.
We're not going to start that again, are we?
We're not starting it. We're continuing, and that awesome thing. You can find it on our YouTube page. So number 4, your
So
number 4 was
before we continue, there was a
number
comment
3.
on Luke 21, right?
Okay.
So Luke 21:19, reading a little bit before it, starting at verse 17, you will be hated by all people for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will perish. By patient endurance, you will gain your lives. And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. So
Oh yeah.
Jesus referencing, of course, those who are patient in faith, right? That they know the promises of the Lord and they see the things changing in the world and they recognize the hardships. And instead of being frustrated and saying, when, Lord, when, they're patiently waiting and they know that the time is coming. Beautiful verse, a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful verse there. So,
All right. Well, it's time for your number 3.
number 3. All right. So, my number 3 is AI is a tool we are surely using wrong. that is you did not need to do that. That was an appropriate Star Trek reference. Um,
My phone was ringing. Sorry.
um, no, the we are in an AI generation, and it is all of a sudden kind of come upon us in a storm. And you're hearing comments out there all the time that AI is going to make millionaires in far less time than the internet ever did, and it's hitting pastors, it's hitting congregations. Congregational members are saying, "Pastors, are you having your sermons written by AI now?" Or they're looking at lawyers and saying, "Are the lawyers using AI to put their briefs together and everything else that they're doing?" And AI is just hitting, and people are looking towards AI to instead of going to talk to a person, they're using AI to try to counsel themselves and try to get information on how they should live their life and the things that they should do.
Mm-hmm.
And so my struggle, because I actually had to write a paper on this for a conference, and I've been reading on it from other people. John Lennox has his AI book 2084, and the AI Revolution. I think that's a really good book. And I think it's going to be a part of what we have to learn to live with. What I'm kind of was getting at in my thought was AI came on so fast that we all jumped on the kind of, it looked neat, and you get on that bandwagon of, wow, this is a neat thing, let's play around with it. And I think it built practices of things we're doing it wrong. And I think we are relying on it, and I think it's easy to do that because you start relying on it for things that we don't know the topics, and so we turn to it for the answers, and we start
Like yeah.
where instead of using it as the tool it is, and keeping it as the tool that it should be, we're using it wrong to rely on it for things that it wasn't maybe not meant to do. and should not have been meant to do. So case in point, analytics, great. Running through, huge amounts of data to do comparisons, awesome. As a research tool, I find it lacking. It's getting better, but it doesn't in a religious standpoint, it doesn't bring the gospel, right? It doesn't replace a pastor who knows his people, or a really on the other side, someone who has a life question and needs somebody to understand what life is. It can't do that, and I don't think it ever will, because it's not alive. I mean, so I think sometimes when we look at to those things, and we're lonely, and we go and have a conversation with a AI bot, my chat GPT is going to talk with me. I think it's kind of maybe being used falsely and wrongly. I know my chat GPT is very snarky.
For some
So
reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I did a comparison with one of my members. He is very, very math orientated, and he uses chat GPT for like all of his math and all of his like he'll equations and stuff like that. And so we both asked the same question. We both asked it the same question, and mine came out like super snarky. Like, you asked me this question, so I suppose I'm going to answer it to the best of my. But if you would have asked it in a different way, then I would have answered it. And his was just very like logical and very. It was kind of really creepy.
So you are using your AI wrong, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, yeah, sure, absolutely.
I
Um,
do like how with an AI you can. It used to be what searches on the internet used to be like. When you searched on the internet, you used to be able to like find the actual thing instead of having to scroll back through ads or scroll through a bunch of websites that aren't real websites. Now you could just ask AI, and AI will give you the gist of what you're looking for. I think that's an example of us using it correctly. But I do appreciate your point about how we've, especially when AI first came on the scene, we attributed so much to it, and we had a podcast on it basically saying AI isn't a thing, isn't a person, and don't expect it to be independent of us. We've created this thing. It's going to have our characteristics as well. It's not going to be perfect, and it definitely isn't going to fill the need that you're looking for when you're looking for companionship, although it will mimic it. And so, it's kind of like, what is the Greek story of the guy who fell in love with his image in the water, and then he starved to death because he was just admiring himself. Well, AI basically, we're admiring ourselves. We're not creating anything new that
right.
actually is going to be our friend, but we're creating an extension of ourselves, which is going to tell us the things that we want to hear, and establish us in our own what we've already decided. And so,
AI
um,
become where Christians are asking AI, and it identifies or reveals itself as a demon or an entity of some sort. I can't say I've ever witnessed that, but I definitely do know that like you were saying, AI reflects it starts to reflect the mannerisms, and the conversational styles of the people that are communicating with it. And so I do believe that if you as a sinner are communicating with these machines, it's going to start responding in the same way. You know, it's a very interesting topic, and it's worth maybe a study at some point of
yeah,
how AI is reflecting, how AI reflects back at us how we have beaten our consciences down. Because I've had times where in my experimenting with AI and talking with other people, and if you tell it you don't like that answer enough, it won't give you that answer, and it'll come up with a different answer. And I think that is a perfect illustration of us beating back our conscience, right? I don't like the answer it gave. I don't like it. That made me feel bad. That wasn't what I wanted. And so we've beaten it into telling us what we want to hear instead of what we need to hear. And I think there's an illustration in there somewhere, I'm sure.
I do know that for using AI correctly, there's this paper that says Pastor in the Manitowoc Conference delivered in spring about AI
You
that
never read it.
you can
You never read it, not even once. You say you did. You're making up the excuse that you did. You never. I asked for comments. You're like, I haven't read it yet. You never read it.
Okay, we don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but each person has or has not done of what the other person asked them, because that hole could get pretty deep. Anyhow, next one, my number 3. Some people don't change, and that was my.
You're meaning me. I know.
Yeah, some people will keep going with those dad jokes and will never stop. Doesn't matter what you do, whether you laugh at them or groan or roll your eyes, they just won't change. That's who they are. Yeah, I think that was kind of my thinking of handling individuals and like them not wanting confrontation. That's a side of me that was fearful of confrontation, but a side of me that would rather be nice than kind. And nice is just a shallow thing that doesn't want to actually engage with the individual because you are kind, that you want to share the gospel with them. You just don't want there to be an upset. And sometimes people just won't change. And so it's not a matter of you setting them off. It's a matter of you being kind. How can you be kind to that individual? Tell them the truth in love. You've read that somewhere, instead of trying to alleviate a flare up because you're afraid that if there's a flare up, then you won't be able to have this opportunity to have that conversation for them to change. And sometimes they're just not going to change. You have to open yourself to the idea that it's nothing that you do. They will never change. So be who you're supposed to be. Be the Christian in their life. For my sake, be the pastor in their life. Show them the kindness of their Savior, but not necessarily the niceness of our Savior. Oh, that's your phone. That's awesome. We had a Star Trek ringtone and a Star Wars ringtone in the same podcast. That's awesome. Anyway.
No,
not every soul can be one, and that's a sobering thought. Like, you want people to be in heaven with you someday, but not every soul can be one. Yeah. And you just you keep moving on in what God has called you to be as pastor, as Christian. Keep being kind and showing love, unconditional love, recognizing that it may not work.
I also think, that idea of changing people, I think we get it in our heads. Excuse me. We get it in our heads that we somehow can be the change, right? We can do that. And we realize that the only thing that changes people is the Holy Spirit and the gospel message. And he changes people on his own time, not in our timetable. And so it's shouldn't be a surprise to us when we interact with people and they end up interacting with us the same way they've always done it. That should not be a surprise, but it always is a surprise, right? Because we assume I treat them with kindness, they're going to treat me with kindness, or we assume that if I explain it to them reasonably, they're all of a sudden going to reasonably respond, and this is going to all of a sudden change the world. But I think in not only in politics, but in religion and in everything else in society, we have found out over this year alone that there's zero amount of reasonable conversation, zero amount of well-wishing, and zero amount of let me just treat you better that will ever change anybody from the way they're going to react. They're just going to react the way that comes natural to them. That's all.
Your number 2, Will Harley.
Yeah, this one's not impactful at all. It's just if only I read more. I came to that conclusion about halfway through the year that I did not spend a lot of time this year doing a lot of extra reading, and I felt it. I just sermon writing got harder. Attention span got shorter. I think just recognizing and realizing that one of my shortcomings this year especially was that I was not reading enough, and not just in general, because I usually try to read a lot, but it's not just the stories, it's good material, reading good material that advances knowledge and advances wisdom, hopefully, and application. And so I surrounded myself, it was starting in late November, coming into December. I started buying up books that are on my list of the to do things that I'm going to force myself to get through in this upcoming year. So
Yeah. I don't think people understand how much they need their pastors to be people who are spending time reading. Like so many people would say, "Well, what did you do, Pastor? What did you do today? What's on your docket for today?" Well, I'm trying to read this book. What's it for? And it's like, well, it's kind of for ministry, or it's just kind of like, it's not like for a specific thing, but it's just for you as a pastor to grow as a pastor. And professional growth is oftentimes something where God's people will say, well, you'll do that in your downtime. And you say, well, no, I'm called to be a father and a husband, and I have to take care of my body as well. That's what I do in my downtime. If you want me to be your pastor and you want me to be a better pastor than when I got here, or, in Will's case, to level up to the awesome pastor, I mean, he's like tier 2 pastor now. He can be up to tier 1 pastor if you just allow him that extra time. I didn't hear what you said.
I said, you actually think I could be a tier 1 pastor?
No, I believe so. So so for God's people to think that this is what it means to be a pastor. And it's not saying that pastors should spend all their time in the office. Certainly not. They have the vocation to fulfill, but for us to downplay a pastor in their study, reading a book, and if you just saw your pastor sitting there in his study reading a book, what is your first thought? And if your first thought is anything other than what's wrong with him, then you're okay. But if you're saying what's wrong with him, you should be out there doing something, pounding pavement or making phone calls and things of that nature.
But I think that's part of the book, though. I mean, and like you had said, it's not always reading something that has a direct connect to ministry. Case in point, like it's not always reading a theological book. Although I know in this podcast, that's one of the things that we held each other accountable. We try to read theological books that we can then explain to people who are listening. But it's like, I have a book that I just picked up, and it's about historical stories that detail all of the elements of the periodic table of elements. And I'm really interested in reading that because it goes through all of the periodic table of elements, but it's telling historical accounts of how those elements worked into history somehow, some way. And so it's like learning to tell a story, because that's going to help you in your preaching. Learning how to read a different type of literature, because that's how it's going to help you in your working with the scriptures themselves, because you have all sorts of different literature that's in the scriptures. Sometimes it's just sitting around somebody who writes well to learn how to become a better writer yourself.
Yeah. I still remember reading the Mark Twain stories of his traveling through the Mediterranean, just the way that he pens a phrase and things of that nature. You go, I can learn from this. I don't remember exactly specifically what I learned, but I just knew like the bar's here, Dave. It's not where you are. You think it, whatever it is, so, you can aspire to be better.
You can aspire to be better. And to answer, so one of our people listening said, "Oh, that sounds really cool. If you're interested in the book, it's called The Disappearing Spoon." That's a
cryptic title.
Yeah, it's called.
But no,
it's called The Disappearing Spoon.
Right.
And so very good. I'm excited to start that one. That's my January book of choice. And so my December book of choice, because I wasn't reading, and I have to say I'm about halfway through. But that one is Turning Points. And it's not what you think with all the Turning Point USA type of stuff. No, this is it's a book called Turning Points. The what was it, 14? Oh, it's
he's got a book called Turning Points, doesn't he? Of like
Yeah, no,
Like,
this is decisive moments in
mm,
church history.
okay.
So it's in the history of Christianity. So it pretty much goes through the history of Christianity and cites here the turning points that did something
Hmm.
and ended up where we're at religiously now. So I'm about halfway through that book right now. So
My number two is life can still be enjoyed even if it's hard. And so that was my takeaway as far as there were been a lot of things through the summer. We had a summer trial, which normally in ministries and congregations, summer is a time when things kind of back off a little bit, but not in my case. We were really pushing ahead a lot. We were trying, what is it like to have two congregations working together and worshiping together and ministries together? And we were integrating that for a summer. And for me, that meant there was a lot more one man show now. Now you're working with lots of other people. And so that takes a lot more time. So it's a lot more work. But then in the middle of summer, or it was middle of summer, we had my aunt and uncle come out and they were visiting, and they said, Dave, you should come down and visit us in October, or you should come down and visit us in Arizona. I'm like, we are going to Arizona in October. And my wife looked at me like, you're nuts. I mean, when are things gonna let up for you? Why are you, pushing ahead like this? But it was very much enjoyable to spend a week with my aunt and uncle, all part of that whole concept, a thing that Will Harley is a trigger word for Will Harley, which is the word, self-care, taking care of yourself. And this is a good thing to enjoy life, to enjoy what God has put in front of you, and not just always be thinking of work all the time. Because Will is, as a self-professed workaholic, I am a workaholic, but I do enjoy.
and it's not just self-professed. My wife calls me it too.
So
So
just that just that you can enjoy life and not feel guilty about it. You can just say, I'm going to take this time to read, or I'm going to take this time to work on myself, or go for a walk. My wife and I went for walks in the summer, and that was an hour a day. I'm like, I don't have time to walk for an hour a day. I do have time. I can enjoy life in the midst of everything. So, yeah, a life can still be enjoyed even if it's hard. That's my number two.
yeah, I
And
that is a
go
great
ahead.
one. I think your
Number
number
one,
great.
Will Harley.
My number one. Okay, we're doing number one now. So yeah, this one's kind of esoteric, I suppose. So we easily forget our martyrs. So living for the truth may be better than dying for it. Um, and this one kind of was um this one kind of harkened back a little bit to like um Charlie Kirk and things that I was kind of thinking about when I was putting this together. Um, I was also, kind of thinking about the people who, are let's be on fire for our faith, burn really bright, really fast, and then burn out. And I was thinking about all these kind of things in my head, and I used to listen to Charlie Kirk. You'd be in the background when I would be doing other things in the office, and it was horrible what happened to him. That I don't want to get into that right now, but people called him a martyr, right? And we had these huge events that were going on around the nation. He was a martyr. He was a martyr for this for this thing and a martyr for that thing. And it was within a month, it burned out. And it's like Facebook dropped a ton of stuff that he was putting out, like even repeats. I mean, they're gone. Here was a talk that he gave, and now it's gone. And it's almost become a byword for the things that he lived for and the things that he did, and it just was a reminder to me that only the family remembers the martyr, but living for your faith means something, and so that's an important thing, and I think it's an important thing for the church that we live for something,
Okay.
and not always be like, I'll die for something, but are you living for that something? I mean, you might have a quiet faith and you might have a person who's like, I would die for that, but they're not living for it. And I think living for it is more important. Um and I mean, you may be called to die. I don't know. I'm not God. I can't say that, but you're called to live. and you're called to confess, and
Yeah.
you're called to do something with what he's given you in this world. And I think we fail, and I fail. And it was just a reminder to me that the impact I have on the world around me by God's grace is not in my death, but in my living. And
Yeah. Well said. I was thinking you were turning a phrase on it's better to live for a lie than die for the truth, but that wasn't what you were going for. It was actually something better. The fact that people, and we've talked about this too in pre-marriage classes, when you look at the guy and you go, are you willing to die for your wife? Certainly. Are you willing to live for her? Are you willing to make those decisions, like live for your marriage and make these decisions? And then that's where things
yeah,
get difficult, where we have this we would like to be able to be the martyr, but are we actually going to live for the cause that we truly believe in? And that means doing some difficult things sometimes, and it means you don't get recognized sometimes. You don't get to be in the news or on the Facebook or on the Instagram. So, yeah,
well, we had
that's
a
a
comment.
good point you made.
Well, we have a comment that came in on that point, and I think it should be addressed. The comment was more people came to church, right? And things, and I would have to say that just like there happened to be influxes when major things happened in the nation before, and people scrambled to try to find a grip on why, and how it could have happened, and so they turned to religion. It was a flash in the pan. I The numbers didn't sustain themselves. Um, People flocked to congregations and then didn't hear the political rhetoric or hear the statements that they wanted to hear, and so they stopped going. Or some people that had been going didn't hear what they wanted in support of the things that they thought they should have heard, and then they stopped going. And I think what you had happen, which happens more often than it should, was that they started to look at the church and say, well, you should, instead of letting the church be what it is, and perform the
Yeah,
tasks that it was called to do.
yeah. I when people were saying they're coming back to church and all that, I was like, how do we have numbers, or is it just people proclaiming? There's this is all a bunch of anecdotals, like people are coming back, and then the secondly, I'm like, the people that are saying people are coming back to church are from a movement that loves a revival and then wants to have a revival and wants to have the next great awakening, and so anytime there's any kind of momentum that way, they're going to scream that, oh, this is now the next great awakening of America. And so, and that was at his funeral as well. There was, and so I guess I would say my filter was on and saying, did this really happen? One, and if it did, show me the data,
Yeah.
because everyone is saying this is happening. I'm like, well, where's the data that shows it? And then I really like your point of, if people are coming back to church and then not hearing what the church is meant to say, which is forgiveness of sins found in Jesus Christ and Him alone, they're saying, well, you need to be talking more about the here and the now, and here and what's going on in America, and their ears are starting to itch, and they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's kind of what I've seen. I think I've seen that more often than not. And but I also have seen, and this is just a corollary, gospel, and truly have heard with ears unblocked by the Spirit, um, their sins are forgiven. I've seen a change in life, and I've seen a desire that has been lit into them that only God can make. I don't have to talk about politics. You don't have to talk about things that the church shouldn't even necessarily be in fully 100%. And there's other conversations you can have about that. I understand that the Lord works in His Word, in His means, and He still is winning souls, and that's part of the martyr is all well and good, and sometimes you're called to be that, and there have been in the world people that have been called to be that. Um, but living for what you believe is equally as wonderful. I think of Martin Luther, who wasn't martyred. He died of natural causes. But man, was he a powerhouse in living for what he believed. Um, I mean, John never was martyred, the Apostle John, and yet we have some of the greatest um, greatest words given to us of hope and comfort. And just look at his book of Revelation, where he's looking back and he's saying, yeah, some of my friends are a part of those martyrs. Some of my friends were the ones that, I did ministry with and then were called too early by the hands of someone else. But he wasn't. And he was able to do some really good things. So, yeah.
Yeah, there have been martyrs this year, not just Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
Nigeria,
absolutely.
lots of the Muslims are coming down from the north and slaughtering villages of Christians in Nigeria. And
Yeah.
you go, is that leading people to come to church in America? Why not? Because it's not about America. And
Yeah.
so you go, maybe this isn't a spirit thing. Maybe this is just a politics thing that's taking advantage of a spirit thing. If
But
that's making any sense.
how many children were impacted by a gospel being played out when they saw their dad give up their life for them
Yeah.
and for what he believed?
Yeah.
There is impact on a different level. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. I like this conversation. My number one is man is not meant to be alone. And you might think I'm going marriage here, and I'm not. Although it is part of it. That I
I
guess it
didn't
is.
think that at all. I'm married. I know.
So I think that's what my takeaway for the year. Grew, fail, and prevailed. I think that I was seeing some in myself. I see a person that doesn't necessarily need anybody besides Christ, and you go, that's not really a good thing. You see that with interacting with a brother Christian. He's not meant a brother pastor. He's not meant to be all by himself. We're supposed to be helping him. In my children being off in college, and I'm looking at how they're growing into the adults that they are, and how awesome they are, and they're coming to that realization too. They're not meant to just be their own person throughout the world. And for myself, it's a tough time, because this was a time in my own personal life when I was a senior in college. My father had passed away in November of my junior year and senior year. It's like nobody understands what I'm going through right now and the struggles I'm going through right now, and with my own mother and things of that nature, other than my siblings. But really, it was, their family. But anyhow, the point of the matter is, I'm looking at my kids and seeing, and I'm glad to see that they're finding friends in this time and not saying, well, I don't need anybody, because I know firsthand it's not a good thing to be all by yourself. And so, a good thing for this is one of the reasons why I do this podcast and do stuff on Emmanuel Shirley's on their online stuff, is to let people know they are not alone, and that they're not meant to be on the other side of the screen. They're meant to be in a family, in a community of some sort. And so all of the work that we're doing as a podcast, all the work that we're doing at Emmanuel in our online presence, is so that this online thing becomes an in-person thing. Because we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be part of a community. We've been talking about this in our Book of Concord study, about how the Word of God is meant to be spoken, not just read. Read is just a singular thing. I'm sitting here reading the Bible. No, someone speaks it to me. Otherwise, you become more like the Ethiopian eunuch than you think. You're reading something and you go, I don't understand. Somebody has to explain this to me. Well, guess what? That's what God called this thing, put this thing together called the church, so that we would be. Not everybody has all the information. We need each other. And we can correct, rebuke, and encourage one another. Paul says that. Are together better when you are not alone. And that's my key takeaway for number one.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, you have right in there the message of baptism. I've been placed into the body of Christ, not to be walking this alone, but to walk it together. I look at the promise of our Lord, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am with them. It's as small as a family, but it's still where 2 or 3 are gathered, right? Where God's presence is going to be with his people. Yeah. So is it a rebuttal against the hunter who wants to be out there in the tree stand all through the month of November and says, well, I can be fine. Yes, I get the sentiment, but you're missing out on just the wonder of the body of Christ. You're not alone, brother. You're
Yeah.
never alone. You're never alone. I'm like a bad penny. I keep always turning up. And so, it's if you ever feel alone, I'll hound you. I'll call your wife and have her hound you. Difficult and challenging. That's since you love challenges.
I do love challenges. I didn't necessarily always agree with that all the time. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of one, I'm like, I don't think so.
Sure.
Yeah, coming out of the other side of it, you go, yeah, I do like this thing called a challenge. So, our promise to talk about the year, and my thanks to all of you on behalf of both of us for listening. I was, I in my privacy of my insomnia, I was working through how's our podcast been doing the last couple of years that we've been doing this together, and I made some counts, and we've had 42,400 downloads since the casting net started. And we've got and Downcast and iHeart, wherever your podcasting platform is, we're probably there. Spotify, we're on Spotify, and we're also videoly on Spotify. And Spotify says we're one of the top 25 video podcasts of Spotify in 2025. And so I wanted to thank you for that. Our YouTube, we have 74 people who are subscribing on YouTube. Thank you very much. This year we had 26 more than we did the year before. And then on Facebook, we have 211 people following us on Facebook, but that's kind of just a statistic that is not, doesn't say much because it's like 2-second views. So ever since we went back to doing live stuff on Facebook, our 2-second views have gone, say, no, thank you. I'm ready for some more cats or something like that. And then also wanted to thank for the Rumble audience as well. So we've got 18 people subscribed on Rumble. Rumble is kind of our platform where how we are able to do this the way that we do. We broadcast through a Rumble studio, which because we have the subscribers on there, it's free for us to go because we don't have budget or anything that nature. We have no sponsors. And so Rumble Studio, we're able to broadcast to Facebook and to YouTube, and Spotify, of course, is also free. So thank you, Rumble, and thank you those on
I can't
Rumble.
believe that you threw our sponsors under the bus like that. I mean, Michigan Straight has been a supporter of this podcast since its beginning. I mean, we've had good tea and good coffee that have been sponsors for
That's right.
many, many years.
I'm sorry.
And you went and
Again, I got to put the disclaimer up there. I got to disclaim everything that needs to be disclaimed.
I can't believe it. I can't believe you would throw those long-standing sponsors under the bus like that.
Now we're screwed.
All that money they put into having that wonderful library and fireplace behind you, all of their donated time and effort for that. And you just said, we don't have sponsors.
And it's not that we're looking for any. It's nice to be able to do this without being beholden to anybody.
Absolutely.
And listeners, you don't have to worry about our monthly drive to get donations like you get on PBS. Like, haven't you noticed that on PBS where you're like, oh, this is a really cool show. Oh, it's actually a drive to get people.
Well, you get that this season for everything. Everything is a thank you letter with an envelope to send money back.
Yeah.
And so there is absolutely no send money to us at all. We're not going to put a Patreon up. We're not going to give you a QR code for donations. We're just going to say thank you for listening, and hopefully it's a benefit to you. Not only is it a good thing for us to keep each other accountable, but hopefully you find that these topics are, I think a Merry Christmas is in order because we will not have a Christmas show. This is kind of our end of the year. We've passed Christmas. We're going to leave that to your pastors to take you through the wonder of the season. But a Merry Christmas to you. God's richest blessings as you gather around the manger and look ahead to his coming again. A Happy New Year to all of you. As you ring in safely the new year and make all of the promises to yourself that you will always break within the first week. I mean, that is just going to happen. And so we wish you the very best in that. And then I would say the only thing that we need in this podcast that would make it better is swag. We need casting nets hats or shirts or
Merch.
something. You know, we got to get some merch. I get some like some cool sayings or something that are like known for, you know, like we disclaim everything on a shirt. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. And we will patiently wait for you to put that together.
I will start working on that. That'll be for my new year. I'll do it for a week and then drop it.
I don't have time for that.
So
All right, everyone. Will ended the show very well. So I don't have anything else to say other than thank you, Will, for a great year. And thank you for asking me to be on your podcast so many eons ago. It seems like forever ago.
it's our podcast now, not just mine.
Yeah.
It's ours.
And anyway, Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year. We'll see you in the new year. And in the new year, we'll be finishing up the last book in the Book of Concord. So this year has been the Book of Concord pretty much all year. We haven't really talked about adding other features. We're just, with life as it is, we're going through the Book of Concord, and we got one more book to go, the Formula of Concord itself, which is a formula which is part of the Book of Concord. And it's going to be great. It's going to be what's going to be like when Luther is not around and you've got to deal with religious controversies. How will they handle it? So it's a neat book for us to see the next generation of Lutherans stand up for the gospel. So until then,